Hello and welcome to the Easter Ross Peninsula. I've been invited to this beautiful part of Scotland by the Tane and District Development Trust for a few days in order to explore and photograph this peninsula. And as always, I'm going to take you all on the adventure with me. Let's go! Oh wow! I'm beginning my trip up to this peninsula with a beautiful early morning walk up Tane Hill, and from here you get these stunning panoramic views over the peninsula itself, as well as being able to see the landscapes that surround this area. And it's just such a beautiful place. I already feel incredibly calm and relaxed, which is really exciting to know that I'll be spending the next few days here just immersing myself in this landscape. And I think what's so exciting about this part of Scotland in particular is that while many people think of the Scottish Highlands being the wild, remote, rugged mountainous regions, the great thing about the east coast of the Highlands is that it's got a much gentler, more relaxed feel to it. And you really get that sense up here. You can see the beautiful low-lying rolling hills, the lovely farmland, as well as the beautiful coastline that surrounds this peninsula. I'm just really excited now to get onto the peninsula itself, do a lot of exploring and see what I can photograph and discover. It's now the afternoon here, and I've basically been spending most of the day out exploring and learning as much about this peninsula as I can. I spent most of the morning in the town of Tane, which is the main settlement here on the Easter Ross Peninsula, and it's got a fascinating history. There is so much to it. If you're interested in like the clan systems of Scotland or some of the major battles that happened in history, this area has connections to it all. But on top of that, it's also got some fascinating folklore stories as well as some mythical and magical creatures connected to this area, and I'll be sharing some of their stories with you later on in this video and in the next one. But as this area is really somewhere you'd come in Scotland to just relax, unwind, step back from it all, I'm really utilising the beautiful sunny weather we've got today to just have a really nice relaxing afternoon. And what I'm doing is I'm walking along the northern edge of this peninsula and I'm looking out over the sea and doing a bit of wildlife watching. And so far I've been looking for whales and dolphins, but I've not seen any. But what I have seen so far is an amazing variety of bird species. I've just been to a village called Inver, which is home to a lovely river estuary, which is just teeming with wildlife. And I'm now walking along the coast between the famous little village of Port Mahomet and Tarbert Lighthouse, which many of you will have seen on my channel before. And there's a lovely walk between them that showcases this beautiful rocky shore and coastline here, which is a fantastic place, like I say, to spot dolphins and whales. So that's what I'm on the lookout for just now, but it's just so nice to be able to step back, unwind and just relax. I'm telling you, there's nowhere else more perfect for that than here. The sound of nature today is just incredible. We've now reached golden hour on this beautiful sunny day here, and what I decided to do this evening is I've come down to this lovely estuary area here, which is literally just on the border of Tane itself, the largest settlement in this area. And what I'm kind of hoping to do tonight is, as the sun is setting over the horizon, I'm hoping to get some really nice golden light over this estuary and being able to pick out certain pools of water in order to give me some really interesting scenes around me. And in the distance we've got the lovely mountains there further up in the Highlands that I hope I can get nice silhouettes or light on them. Unfortunately though, because it's been such a sunny warm day today and tomorrow is going to be pretty much the same weather, it's getting quite hazy now that we're getting towards sunset, which could hamper my chances of getting that really nice sunset colours or glow. But I'm out nevertheless, and I'm really hopeful that I'll be able to get something from this evening. But the reason I've come to this spot in particular is actually because of a folklore. And for those of you who know us Scots, you know that we love a really good story. And out there right behind me, it is home to these sandbanks. Now unfortunately these sandbanks are only visible a few days of the month, and while I'm here they're not going to be visible, which is a real shame. But the story behind those sandbanks is so incredibly fascinating, and it's all got to do with fairies. And again, those of you who are familiar with Scotland will know there's quite a number of stories, especially up in the Highlands, involving fairies. And this story, I think, is one of my favourites I've ever heard. So these sandbanks out here, what it's believed is that they were made by fairies who were building a bridge between the Easter Ross Peninsula over the Dornoch Firth to Dornoch itself. This story all originates from many years ago, when on the west coast of Scotland a laird was wanting to build a bridge across a peninsula or a body of water in order to help him get to the other side more easily. And what he did is he sent a clansman over to this part of Scotland to meet this witch who had these work fairies, and the whole plan was to get some advice from her about how you can go about building this bridge and potentially maybe get some of her fairies. So the clansman came over here and he went to meet this witch, and the witch gave him this box which he told him he was not allowed to open. He had to take it back to the laird where he was able to open it. But this clansman, as he was walking away from the witch's place, he noticed that the box was moving. He felt that there was something inside of it moving, and his curiosity got the better of him. So he very slightly opened the box and peered in, and to his absolute surprise, inside of that box was hundreds of brown fairies, and they all popped out of the box. And these fairies were work fairies, so they were basically all over him, telling him to give them work. So he didn't really know what to do. He was totally overcome by this. So he sent them up Tane Hill, where I was at the start of this video, in order to clear some of the heather and everything, which was quite a common thing back in the olden days, because they used to often use it on roofs and housing. And he expected this to take the fairies a long time, but within a few minutes they were back, because after all, they're work fairies, they're really quick at doing a job. And again, they were asking him to give him work and kept bombarding him, saying, give me work, give me work, give me work. So he remembered the whole reason of him coming over here to get the fairies in the first place, and because he was in this area and not his homeland, he basically asked them to build a bridge over the Cromarty Firth, which is behind me here. And that is where the story of the sandbanks comes from. But basically the really interesting part of this, and the part that still stays with us today, is because the sandbank is only visible sometimes at low tide, it is believed that these fairies began to build this bridge. And what happened was, as the tide came in, everything they had built out of the sand was basically being moved and destroyed. So now, even to this day, every time the tide retreats, the fairies begin building the bridge again, and then when the tide comes back in, that bridge is again demolished. So the folklore basically says that these fairies are now stuck out there, continuously rebuilding this bridge every time the tide comes and goes. And yeah, they're still out there to today, working away, trying to finish this bridge. But I think it's a really interesting story, and that's why I wanted to come down here tonight, to try and photograph the landscape around here, and also to get my imagination running wild at the thought of these fairies still out there busily trying to build this bridge. I love a good folklore tale, and if you can sometimes come to a location like this, it's got an interesting story around it. It, like I say, makes your imagination run wild, and it can make your photography sometimes more creative. So yeah, I'm excited to just sit down here tonight and relax and watch the sunset, and hopefully get a few images while I'm at it. This mermaid sculpture is just beautiful. I've decided to do something I've not done for ages, and that is long exposure photography. What is going on behind me just now is just incredible.